What's up, everybody? Welcome to Real Gamer Podcast. I'm joined today by Anthony from Real Gamer News. What's up, Anthony?
Yeah, it's going pretty good, my friend.
All right. And for today's topics, we're covering everything from Microsoft shutting down stores to next gen only games already being confirmed, a brand new leak of Cyberpunk, some other information, as well as our main topic, which is going to be about the former CEO of PlayStation, Shawn Layden, making some regards of comments lately. But to kick things off, Microsoft Store will be closing down all physical retail locations. I don't know if you've ever been to a Microsoft Store, but I have been there, and one of the things I liked the most about it is I got to try the HTC Vive before it came out and before I bought one. So that was really cool to be able to have a place to go and do that. I mean, this was years ago. Probably nowadays, I wouldn't want to put something on my face, maybe that somebody else used. I mean, they did wipe it down and everything like that, but you know, yeah. So Microsoft no longer competing with Apple on the storefront. I mean, most of the stuff they had that you could buy somewhere else anyways, right? Like Xboxes,
hmm
PCs, laptops, VR headsets. But yeah, it's definitely less jobs, and they seem to be really fun jobs that paid high. What do you think about this?
hmm So with Microsoft, their main
Yeah,
focus is actually software. So they may have felt like they didn't have enough specialized hardware that you can only get at Microsoft stores to keep them open. So that may have been a reason why they closed them down. Or
true.
um, what else was there? Like
Uh,
I've only ever bought like maybe two things from a Microsoft store. One was literally a Windows installer key and everything.
right,
And another one was I think it was like an Xbox accessory that I used on my PC. Yeah.
right. Yeah. Um, I've got a wireless dongle for the PC that lets me hook up like something like 15 Xbox controllers wirelessly at once or something like that. I mean, you'd never need that many, but at least you only had to buy one. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so Resident Evil 8, also known as Resident Evil Village, apparently, uh, was
Mm-hmm.
canceled on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. So they're only going to be on PS5 and Xbox Series X, as well as
Mm-hmm.
likely a PC version. They said here that the way that the open world layout was designed specifically relies on the extra power that PS4 and Xbox One do not have.
Mm-hmm.
So if they were to release the game on those platforms, it would be sort of like an Oblivion type of game, or even Grand Theft Auto 3 type on PlayStation 2. Remember where it's like loading every time you hit certain points inside the city, it starts loading. But because the graphics are not that crazy back then, it wasn't that bad to be loading. But it's sort of like every time you turn your shoulder, it's like loading, right? And so with the graphics that they're using now, there would be a ton of loading screens, which would be longer than that every time you sort of walk down the wrong alley, like away from what you meant to go to, and then you're gonna realize, oops, I didn't mean to go this way. And then you turn around and start to walk again the right way, and it's gonna have to load again.
Hmm.
Like remember how Resident Evil used to cover that up with the
Oh yeah.
doors, opening doors or going up steps. They had little cutscenes of that. That was to like load the next level.
Hmm.
Yeah, so it's not going to be on current gen platforms. It's the first game to do so. It seems that Horizon Zero Dawn Forbidden West is also
Mm-hmm.
confirmed that it will only be on PS5, not PS4. It's like a standalone expansion, sort of. So it is a full
Mm-hmm.
new game, but it's not like the exact. It's not this complete size as the last entry. It's more like an
So
in between.
I see a reason for both of those. With Village, if you take a look back at other games that launched in this sort of jumping of generations windows, which one was it? Dragon Age Inquisition had only 10% of their sales on the PS3 and the Xbox 360. The other 90 was either on the current gen platforms or PC side. So they probably took a look at that game, said, okay, makes up only 1/10 of our sales, and cost us probably X amount of money to do this. So they probably weighed their sort of assets. It's like, okay, we can make this game for cheaper if we only release on the PS4 and not PS4, PS5 and the Series X instead of the current gen platform. That's probably what they. That's probably why they did that. And with Horizon Zero Dawn, excuse me, um, that one is probably going to have, judging on how the last one is, how there was the trick of the rendering, how when you moved your camera, it loaded and unloaded on the fly from RAM. So I believe that they're going to take full advantage of the SSD and make it even faster. Because there was times where, yes, there was very weird sort of cavern-like areas where you had to go through. That's probably where they were loading everything in. So if they skip that and use the SSD on the PS5 instead of making it work on the PS4, they would also still save themselves a lot of money and free up some design decisions, which I really like. Yeah.
No doubt. So, another additional 25 minutes of Cyberpunk 2077 footage has been leaked online.
Hmm.
What do you think about how this game's starting to look now?
Um, Based on everything I've seen, it's going to set the like new standard on what an RPG open world is going to be. Because like the first one was like, oh, how far back can I go? Let's go to like Skyrim. Like Skyrim set the standard on like how an open world RPG should be like. It was big, yes, and also like each area felt unique in its own way. Then there was the Witcher 3, which set the standard for like how how an RPG world should be designed, like how its NPCs are, and what's another one? Like how quests should work. I think it's going to be like one of those one of those games where it's just like so impressive. It sets the new goal for what a game should be.
True, true. And did you see in one of our last videos I mentioned that Cyberpunk
Mhm.
2077 is getting all the new RTX um, abilities?
Mm. So I think it's I've read up on that. The only one I didn't think I found was ambient light, which is like whatever, but all the other RTX ones are going to look really nice inside that like neon dense sort of city like feeling. That's going to be really cool to see on that.
Yeah,
I
I was
personally,
reading that it's too detailed possibly for a global illumination scheme. Like the detailed art was made beforehand, so they wouldn't add
mm,
that particular feature. That was gonna have to wait for other games probably build around it.
yeah, I can see that because like
But they have
Cyberpunk,
DLSS.
mm, like the
Remember we were
Cyberpunk.
talking about before
Oh
last
yeah,
time the AI?
yeah. Mm.
Yeah.
That one for me, it's gonna be a wait and see, because like I'm not a graphics engineer. I can't really say from I don't know a engineering standpoint. I can say it from like a design standpoint. Yeah, it is going to be interesting, and with the proper resources, I could probably take a really nice advantage of it. But right now, I have nothing.
So a little bit of disappointing news. PlayStation
Mhm.
Plus is trying to celebrate their 10th anniversary of 10 years, but they're just giving out NBA 2K20, Rise of the Tomb Raider 20-year celebration edition, and Erica interactive film. So they didn't give us anything like PlayStation themed or oriented, but they just said like happy 10-year anniversary without actually doing anything for it. What do you think about that? Do you think PlayStation Plus missed opportunity to make a big 10-year anniversary for people? What do you think they should have done? Should they have given free games? Should they have given like a crazy discount to a game that was unexpected? Or do you think like the monthly subscription thing's just evolving to the point where like Xbox Game Pass is so many free games and then like PlayStation Plus is kind of like behind the times. Like I don't know. What do you think about this one? Because I already know that there's those two sides of it. So what do you think about
So if PlayStation Plus, yeah, it's they've been doing for 10 years and giving out a whole bunch of games. I think what they should have given out was, what feels like truly PlayStation: God of War and Spider Man. If they gave those two games out, one of like made a lot of headlines, and it would make felt like they put effort into this. Like, no, this is like this is what we started. Here's something that represents us that we are proud of. Here you go. And they should have given out a lot of discounts, especially for people that have been like subscribed for over a year. They should have gave like extra discounts out on that. Yeah. And how they it kind of felt like I don't know, a sidebar thing, like, like on here's on the side, let's concentrate on this. That's probably how they are, since the new consoles are launching soon, so they're probably busy on that. All their subscriptions are kind of like at the back of their mind. It kind of feels like,
it? Right. PS5 is the focus right now.
Yeah.
So Crash Bandicoot 4 is
Hmm.
looking like a pretty good game, to be honest. It's co-op and single-player story mode game, but it's just been announced by Activision that it's gonna have microtransactions.
Oh, fucking crazy. I'm not exactly even happy that I'm not happy that it has microtransactions. I just hope it's not too evasive, because with Activision, it's run by Body Kotick, and oh boy, that guy is just greedy. Um, I just, I hope they don't like sanction off parts of the game that are very crucial and core to it and sell it off as microtransactions.
I did
I'd much
notice
rather.
I did notice that for the past two Call of Duties, they put them out with no microtransactions for a month, and then they put the microtransactions after reviewers already gave it like a good score and stuff and a good review.
Yeah,
And I've
that's kind
also,
of.
yeah, and I've also noticed that Crash Team Racing did not come out very good, and there's a ton of microtransactions have been shoved into it as well, and they've made things into DLC which were originally part of the original game.
Oh god, it just leaves like a bad taste in the mouth of people.
It's a shame too, because it looked like they made an interesting game with Crash Bandicoot 4.
Yeah, like it looks worth playing. At the same time, I'm kind of hesitant to give it the green light.
Definitely.
Yeah. So what's the next subject, eh?
So next up, we've got a really weird story. It's back to PlayStation Plus again.
Mm-hmm.
Sonic Forces somehow is the second most downloaded PS Plus game ever.
So for me, when it comes to Sonic games, they're very hit or miss. They're never just like two good ones in a row. And whenever I see a new one come out, I'm very hesitant to get it because I'm afraid it might be shit. But if there's a way I can get it for free, I'll download it and try it out. That's probably how a lot of people think now.
True, true. The average score is 5.7 from users, so not very high there. Have you played this one yet?
Nope. But hey, they at least have played it instead of paying full $60 for it.
Fair enough. And if you heard about Ubisoft Montreal's new game, it's going to be a battle royale with Twitch integration, and it's called Hyperscape. It looks pretty cool, to be honest. Have you heard about this one?
Nope.
Yeah, brand new today. So check that out. I left the link in the Discord about it.
I'm looking at it right now.
There you go. So from the makers of Rainbow Six Siege,
Mmm.
It's a really interesting looking game. What do you think about this Valorant and now this Hyperscape and these types of games where it's like centered around the esports scene?
With esports, they're very hit or miss. They do have a big community, and it's easy to sell a lot of copies and get a lot of players if you have an esports scene. So they're probably trying to capture that audience. Um, so it's hard to get an actual like profitable esports section within a company. It's kind of like you need to find that audience well, like early, and find a large audience to do it to actually like, support your pro gamers on Twitch through donations or something to help them get up to these mass events that they do advertise as esports. So it's like I just feel like if there's going to be too many of them, they're not going to be sustainable. You know?
Right.
Yeah. So what else you got, D?
All right. So the former PlayStation CEO, Shawn Layden, has been making lots of comments after he threw a failure of an E3 for Sony and was seemingly fired for lack of results. First, he was caught saying that games are too expensive and they won't continue to be made at this quality level. Now he's suggesting that games should be much shorter. Jack Tretton, on the other hand, has a firm belief in what Sony is doing with PS5. That's the guy who ran the PS3 campaign. And he's also distanced himself from the making players into payers scandal from an AI focused microtransaction company on mobile, which he says he had no part of. What are your thoughts on this?
So games already are getting pretty fucking expensive to make. I believe, judging on a rough estimate, you're looking at like 70 to about $150 million for a lot for most AAA games. Like The Last of Us Part Two is probably $200 million. That's probably what they spent on it. They are getting very expensive, and just not every studio can put in the time and money into making the massive like online multiplayer RPG like Destiny. Like Destiny alone was Destiny 1 and 2 combined is like something like $100 billion to make both those games. Like they're getting really expensive, and people are just starting to expect too much. Like if I don't know, like like a AAA game studio made a game on a polished level of I don't know, or here's a better example. Uncharted 4 was like 20 hours long, while Uncharted Lost Legacy was only like 8 to 10. I really enjoyed Lost Legacy more, so I can like rip through it faster, but still walk away really satisfied with the AAA level experience I got out of a cheaper game. That's also what I think he's going at. And some games are just they're some studios without the microtransactions that we're starting to hate in AAA games. Some of these games would not be made, honestly. It's everything excluding
Well,
whatever EA and Activision made in the last couple of years. But yeah, continue.
perhaps, but see, I tend to feel like if they made less games and they tried harder on the games, then and less people tried to make every single genre of game, then I think that we would see potentially like you could have like VR MMO shooter games which are worth more money and you put more money into it. Like I would be fine with the price of games increasing. You just have to increase the quality of innovation as well with it. Like we can't be playing games which are like Uncharted 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Like that doesn't need to
Mhm.
cost more because it's the same game. It's just better. And I understand that the costs increase there, but the same studio, Sony Worldwide Studios, can make something higher quality and more innovative and charge a higher premium for it if possible. But it has to get us. It has to really be that good. Like MMOs have died off. VR is still experimental. So I don't know. We're kind of like sitting around waiting for this big extinction level event where AR and VR are going to take over, but at the moment, things feel a little stagnant. So I guess I can see this doom and gloom coming from that angle, but personally, I don't really agree with this. I think that games which sell enough copies, like some of the games that I play, like Final Fantasy VII Remake and Resident Evil 2 and 3 Remake, they sell so many copies that it's not really a problem for them, like Final Fantasy.
Mm.
So I guess it depends.
There's also only a finite like market out there of finite spending, with the next few years potentially being more of a recession like with because of this entire COVID thing. He's may have looking at it from that angle saying, hey, over the next couple years, the average spender cannot spend so much on games that you probably shouldn't come out with such really long ones at a high price point. Maybe looking at it from that perspective, maybe.
Well, I don't know, man. I don't really see it. Like that's the thing. If he was talking about like in general for middle tier companies, then I might agree. But it seems like he's saying that the AAA games will not be able to exist as they do right now, and I just think that's just wrong. I don't think he's. I just disagree. Also, I tend to wonder like why when he was the president of PlayStation and then when he's the CEO of Sony, he wasn't making any big like bold statements like this. Now that he's not in power there, it's just like a poor kind of timing. That's how I feel for that. But anyways, there's another bonus topic we have here to discuss.
Mm-hmm.
When do you think that the Xbox July event will take place? And what do you think they're going to
Cool.
show there?
So it's going to take place, I want to say, a week after 4th of July.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've heard some people saying June 20th. It might take place between 20th to 25th, but I mean July, sorry. But I tend to think more towards what you're saying like earlier than that. Also, I've heard that in August they might be showing off the Xbox Series S or the Lockhart, whatever they end up naming it.
Hmm.
And a lot of people seem to be getting confused and not remembering that it's like less powerful than the Xbox Series X. Like the PS5 has a digital version, which is the same CPU and GPU, and the
Mhm.
Xbox is a different approach where it's like way cheaper. And then when people are hearing like potential price points, they're getting excited saying like, "Oh, I'll totally grab that then." It's like, yeah, but you don't like you're not getting the same power as the Xbox Series X. So that's only if you want the lesser power or the lesser price. And anyways, do
So,
you expect to see Fable? Microsoft says they're not like they didn't mean to tease it because Twitter things came out the other day.
yeah, I saw that. Well, Fable, I hope for the best. Like, Fable 3 was okayish at best for me, you know? Like, and with Fable 4, they're going to need a console seller because, like, I just, in the last couple of weeks, I just kind of forgot about Xbox entirely. You know, like, they didn't hold any June stuff and they didn't really
They
hold
did.
any May stuff.
They did. It's on my website. They did hold some events.
Ah, maybe I'm just like,
Well, it's because you know what? E3 is canceled, so everybody feels like out of disorder and like all the events are smaller and they're scattered out throughout. And some of the events don't even feel like events. They're just like presentations of. So I guess I understand what you mean, but if anybody's listening right now and you didn't catch up on the May or the June stuff that Xbox showed, it's at realgamernews.com. I personally think it would have been better to have everything all at once for PlayStation, especially, and for Xbox. But this is sort of like the new style of the way of doing things is that they're trying to spread it out over a bunch of different events. So when do you think that we're gonna see PlayStation 5 event again?
I would assume probably like mid July, because like they had their big announcement showing off the console and all that. Now they're going to have to like work hard, get some finalize some trailers and everything to release it all for July. And who?
What do you think
Yeah,
about who's going to show price first? Or what?
ooh. Xbox when they announced Lockhart, honestly, because that's going to be showing off a massive blow to Sony. But like, who? I know they want to like undercut Sony though. Man, that's a tough one. It'll either have to be Sony when they feel like they cannot like delay it any further, but keep what is it, community goodwill, or Xbox when they announce Lockhart, because everyone knows it's going to be a cheaper Xbox. But like, okay, if there needs to be a cheaper one, how expensive is the original? So I think a lot of people are starting to question that too.
Right. Speaking of that, how about Canada price
Ooh.
predictions? I'm going to make my predictions. First, I'd like to hear your predictions. So, for the PS5, the PS5 Digital, remember they're the same thing. There's just one that has no disk drive and it's digital. They actually have the same power. And then the Xbox Series X and the Xbox Lockhart, we'll call it for now, because it sounds the same as X and S. It's too similar. Yeah. So, so which is not as powerful as the X. It's much less. So what do you think? And the rumor is the CPU will be the same for those two, because they cannot sacrifice on that one. But the GPU will be lesser on the less, and it eventually you'll probably just use XCloud for it rather than buying digital games. That's the rumor there, anyways. But all right, Canadian price prediction, Anthony. What do you think for each of those units
I feel like the PS5 disc list
in
or
Canada?
digital edition, yeah, is probably going to be about 500 to 550,
Right.
and the base PS5 will probably be 550 to 600.
Yeah, that sounds reasonable. If the unit comes in, how much do you think in US in order to make that Canada price?
Probably about 400, 450.
True. So, if it comes in on the side of being more pricey in the US, then you can expect that to be like higher, right? Like 700 Canadian potentially if it's 500 US.
I said like 400, 450. So I'm tacking on extra like $100 because that's about 25%, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Or
that sounds like a pretty reasonable estimate. What do you think about Xbox?
ooh, Xbox is going to undercut them for sure. You're looking at maybe like 350, $400 for
For
the base Xbox.
for the Xbox
And
Series X, you think so?
yeah,
Okay.
like though that's American dollars. You're probably looking at like 400 to 450 Canadian. And for the Lockhart one, you may be looking at like $300 to like maybe, ooh, like maybe even 250, like within that range.
So I personally think that they were gonna go for 500 for the initial price, and that now they're just considering to go even lower than that. So I think that's like already ridiculously low for them to go 400 if they do. And I think that with PlayStation it would be like 400 or 450 for the no disc version in US.
Mm,
And I think it would be like 500 for the regular version in US. So
mm,
that means that I would expect it to be like 650 at the for the disc regular version, the most powerful version of PS5, probably be like 650 Canadian, I think. And then
Mm.
and then the one with no disc will probably be like 600 Canadian, just because it's expensive to go across the border. They don't always give you any major discount there. It could be less though. It could be like 550. And then um this is just guesstimates though. We're just guesstimating while we still have time because they're probably going to announce next month, so it's fun to see how close we were. Um
Mm.
I think that for Xbox, actually think they're gonna do the Lockhart for like as cheap as they possibly can, maybe $200 US, and the Xbox Series X would have to be, I think, $500 US, and the result of that, like they might actually have to bring that Lockhart up to like 250 or 300, but for sure I think the Xbox Series X has to match the PS5, and I expect the PS5. I mean, to be honest, the most craziest thing is I think 450, the cheapest for US dollar for those two consoles. I think they need to tack on the 50. Like if they go 400, I'd be happy though. But I think it's gonna be like pretty rare if they do that. I mean, it can happen.
Mm.
It can happen, but we'll see. So I kind of expect that the Series X and the PS5 are going to be like, unfortunately, I expect them to be like 650, maybe 700 Canadian. I expect for each unit. That which is ridiculous, but they could also like sort of subsidize the Canadian version a little bit. I mean, they probably won't, but they could do that. They could sort of like launch it with a free game up here or like an extra controller and just be like, sorry, it's so expensive, but here's another item, you know,
Mm.
or like a gift card. If you buy it on Black Friday, you definitely won't be paying that price. And if you're a little bit patient, but it's hard to get those units sometimes. And this year might be one of those years where it's hard to get. So I'd rather just pay the full price and wait in line and order one on Amazon probably too.
Mm.
Hope that it doesn't get canceled by Amazon and then just end up with two of them. Hopefully.
Okay.
Yeah. So, all right.
Mm.
I appreciate you joining us. We just did our Canada price predictions. I'm excited for next month. Are you going to be tuning in to
Oh
the
yeah.
Xbox events and PlayStation events?
Oh yeah. All the time, man.
Great. So then we'll come and we'll podcast again about it at a later date.
Ooh.
All right. Good show. Until next time, keep it real, keep it gaming. Peace.
See you, man.